I remember calling my mum and dad, and I rang them and I said, this is what I'm doing now, and this is the break even. And they said, you're absolutely mad.
We didn't have enough finances to get the whole thing over the line. So it was a risk. We needed it to work, or there was no festival. Let's just have a look out and see what it looks like from the stage. And we looked out.
Just a sea of people.
Yeah, as far as the eye could see.
First things first, we've made the festival over 25s, which was a brave move, wasn't it, for us?
Yeah, we are reconsidering the age, whether to make it 21s, 23s. And we went there and we all broke down. It was just so emotional.
Welcome back to CJ's podcast with Soultown Festival. Today we have got two very special guests. We have the owners of Soultown, Joe and Lucy. Thanks for coming down, guys.
Thanks for having us, mate.
So Soultown is an amazing festival in South London that specialises in soul and Motown music and has booked some incredible headliners over the last few years. So tell me, guys, how did you two come into business together?
I was already doing events and I always wanted to do a festival, and I went to school with Lucy. She was a few years above me in school, and I noticed that she was already doing a festival in the local area. She already had the grounds, had already played this thing out. So
where is it that you actually hold Soultown?
Beckenham.
South London.
Yeah. And I approached Lucy and said, do you want to meet up about an idea that I've got? We initially spoke about doing a children's festival together on a larger scale than she was already doing, and then we both started to speak about Motown and soul music because Lucy was already doing that at a restaurant that she had at the time, and then we decided that we was going to make a Motown and soul festival, and then Lucy came up with a name. So it was Soul Motown, Soultown, and straight away we got the wheels in motion and carried on from them.
Love it. So, Lucy, what's your background? So you actually used to own a restaurant, right?
I had a restaurant for 10 years. Within the restaurant, we were doing pop-up events in the local grounds that we do the festival at. And then Joe got in contact with me, and we were friends, really, weren't we? But obviously, because Joe's a bit younger, I didn't see him as much. And then, we that was it, really. And we started small. It was going to be tributes, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden, we booked Alexander O'Neill, and it all flowed from there.
So you went from deciding to put on a few tribute acts to actually booking global superstar Alexander O'Neill. I mean, and
then it just rolled from there.
Yeah,
really,
that's something in itself. I mean, obviously, I know about some of the guys that you've booked headliner-wise, but reel off some of the names because you've had some amazing acts perform at the festival.
Yeah.
So Alexander O'Neill, Jocelyn Brown, Shalimar,
Sybil, Evelyn Champagne King,
The Real
Joyce
Thing,
Sims,
crazy,
Kenny Thomas,
D-Train.
Yeah, so there's been some great acts.
That's a serious amount of talent, and I know there's a whole list of other names on top of that as well, which have all been amazing to see. So these are all legends in their own right. Like, crazy that you've managed to bring them all to your local community and put on this festival, right? So the first year it was for how many people?
5,000.
And then the second year it went to
7.5 to 10.
Wow, up to 10. And then next year it's going to be across
next year's 10,000 across 2 days.
Brilliant.
So 10,000 each day, 20,000.
Wow, so that's a serious jump up, which just goes to show how your festival's gone from strength to strength, which is amazing.
It is, yeah. We're actually going to grow the site, but keep the capacity the same, so that we can have a better customer experience.
Perfect.
For everyone that comes to the festival this year.
So I guess a lot of putting a festival together, I mean, there's only so much planning you can do, but it's also a learning curve, right? So you're looking at ways to improve the festival year on year. So
constantly, yeah.
Next year, I mean, you already told me you're going to have more bars. You're going to hopefully have more staff. I mean, this year, the whole hospitality industry was hit with just incredible shortages and problems, which I know affected you guys particularly as well. But I know this has been the case from other events I've attended as well. Just trying to get the staff in coming out of lockdown has been crazy, right?
It really affected us, all the supply issues, the staffing. As I spoke to you before, I've got a couple of pubs and we already knew about the supplier issues before because I was facing the same problems with the pub, but on a much smaller scale. When somebody lets you down for deliveries and stuff a day before a festival and you need it on such a large quantity, there was no contingency plan that you can put in place for
I think
that.
we had a total of 43 staff not show up on the day, so that really is primarily one bar, isn't it?
Yeah, it was near enough one whole agency, because we used 3 agencies.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 agencies that did pull through were quite good, and the third agency, obviously we won't name, but they really let us down with sort of 90% of their staff.
I could see the guys absolutely working their socks off on the day.
They've done fantastically.
To try and get it.
Yeah, they really did, and it's stressful. You can only imagine people just constantly.
Yeah,
there was no respite for them, was it? But they all worked through.
So basically, you had 43 staff, like bar staff, not actually turn up. And one thing I know that was probably as a case of is following the COVID protocols of things like doing testing to actually come on site, and people testing positive for COVID and then not actually being able to come and work.
Yeah, we had so many people isolating, didn't we?
Like even the backups was just like, this doesn't even come.
Well, we put in a contingency. We had like a lot more staff, but no one could have had a contingency for 43 staff not turning up. So it was a massive hit to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that tied in with people haven't been out for so long, so everybody wanted a drink all at the same time, and they just couldn't keep up with the rush, could they?
It was definitely some issues this year that we're looking at and trying to improve for next year.
Well, that's a good thing. So acknowledging the areas that you can improve on, and going into next year, there's going to be more bars, more staffing, and generally going to put on an even more amazing festival experience. Because I know on the whole, from my experience personally, I thought it was an amazing event musically. Getting to see some legendary acts like Shalimar and Sybil was like crazy, and actually getting to interview them as well was a massive honour for me. So thank you guys for
thank you for doing it.
Giving me that opportunity. So you guys have gone from strength to strength during lockdown. I mean, you've been so innovative with your ideas. Like, what were some of the things you were doing to keep busy in terms of like getting the brand out there?
We initially started off with the NHS hampers, didn't we? And tickets for NHS staff. And then it grew from there, really. We decided to do the Doorstep Sessions. Mm-hmm. We saw one of our singers do one, and then we thought, actually, that's a perfect idea to...
I think he'd done one for someone's birthday.
And then we had at one point about 10 singers out, didn't we?
Yeah.
So just taking it back, what was the Doorstep Sessions?
So this was just singers on the circuit that we said that if you want to get involved and give something back... there was people's birthdays. Through the first lockdown, it was entirely free, and we just said, look, tip the singer if you was happy with the singer. It was a really emotional thing to do, wasn't it?
We had people that had weeks to live. That we visited their houses. We had all sorts, didn't we?
Wedding anniversaries, people that had their weddings cancelled, people that had their birthdays cancelled, people that had their 21st birthdays, like 18th, that they were just allowed to go out and they're locked down. So
crazy. Yeah, so you actually had singers turning up, or basically organising singers to go to people's houses, sing on their driveways and doorsteps, and basically put on a show of us at home. What a great idea!
It was great. Tears, weren't there? We cried at a few.
Yeah, and some of our friends and stuff. Like one of my friends, his mum had a stroke, but she could remember all the words and
to the real thing, to everything, wasn't it?
And we went there, and we all broke down. It was just so emotional. But like I said, we didn't initially do it to help grow the brand. We just done it to keep busy and use our platform to do something good and
give something back, really.
Yeah, and we just it made the brand flourish.
Yeah, that's
People
great.
People were just talking about it through the whole lockdown.
If you go onto Soultown social media, right, which is just on Instagram, it's just Soultown Festival, right?
Yeah.
You can check out some of those videos of the Doorstep Sessions and things like that. Which from the outside looking in, I could see really like raised spirits in the community, which was amazing. And another thing you guys did was the Soultown live streams. So what did that involve?
We was meeting weekly on a weekly basis at one of my pubs to just do artwork for the Doorstep Sessions and for the NHS hampers. We're just bouncing ideas around, and then all four, me, Lucy, Rob, just said, why don't we do a live stream? Like I think the first one we saw was DJ EZ, and it was At Home with EZ, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, that's right.
And we said, we can do that. And
that grew. When we look back at the first one, it looks so bad because it's like panelling.
The first one's basically like
in Tony's
cardboard print work, Tony Richardson's
and you can see
playroom.
the breaks in the branding.
Well, it's your main resident DJ, Tony R, NBA, who I know a lot of guys know, particularly in your area.
Yeah.
And then that just grew from literally his front room to having green screens up. And
That's it.
You have Rob, right, who's your videographer behind the scenes, who actually edits this podcast. Shout out, Rob.
Yeah.
Who's amazing, right? On the
So
whole
he
technical
does all
side.
the branding and then all the back of house stuff, the YouTube technicalities that we just have no idea
anything
about.
you see to do with Soultown, Rob pretty much.
We have the ideas and Rob makes them come to life.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Yeah, so
So-
we meet up all the time with Rob, and he works with us closely, and yeah, he's part of the reason our branding looks so good.
Yeah, love that. So I guess with a festival, as we found out, you two guys are the owners, but it is a big team effort, right? So
It is
how
indeed,
big is
yeah.
your team now? I mean, as you said, you've got DJs, you've got technical. I mean, I don't know where to begin on where you would start on planning a festival, but I mean, how long does it actually take to plan that whole day?
It's pretty much a year, isn't it? Everything rolls on as one finishes, the next one starts.
Putting on events like this doesn't come without risk, right? And you guys pretty much put it all on the line to even get this festival to go ahead, right?
Yeah. What, initially in 2018?
Yeah, initially.
Yeah. I remember calling my mum and dad, and they knew I was selling the restaurant, and I rang them and I said, this is what I'm doing now, and this is the break even. And they said, you're absolutely mad. People, you know, it's not going to last long, and it'll be the worst thing you've ever done. Just go and get a proper job. And
Yeah, that's why you can't always go with your head, because even we looked at the P&L and the cost sheet, and
the
we was like,
financials behind it and thought,
I can't
this is
see how
tight.
this is
it
going
would
to work.
scare.
Yeah, but
It's like buying a house without having the money, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. We were, on the first year, we was relying on a lot of the ticket sales to cash flow what was needed to pay for the remaining balances for these acts and everything else. We didn't have enough finances to get the whole thing over the line. So it was a risk. We needed it to work, or there was no festival. We would have had to refund everyone's money.
Yeah,
So
hats off to you.
So
You pulled it off and gone from strength for strength. Yeah.
Got a few grey hairs.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this
Few more
conversation in a few of the podcasts before, is that you don't always make money off of events.
No.
A lot of it is building a brand, getting the marketing right. It does sometimes take a few events to get it right, and then after that you start to see a bit of the return. So hats off to you for taking the plunge and actually doing it on a big scale. It takes a lot of guts to do.
Yeah, it was a bit scary, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's
you
been
did
scary
pull it off.
moments, but yes,
Yeah,
it's all been worth it. It's
Of
all
course.
been worth it.
What would you say for you guys? What was that moment you thought, wow, this is amazing?
I think it was obviously the first year we kind of knew what it entailed to build a festival site, and I think it was the build that was so draining.
The build was stressful because the wind levels were so high. So when the sound system went up, the production guys pulled the sound system down and said it couldn't go up. So Friday night by 10 o'clock, we still had no sound system up and there was no festival.
Wow.
So we had to wait for the wind levels to drop for the sound system to go
That's
up.
a headache.
But this is after this is after like 18-hour
Torrential
days of
rain.
exhaustion, rain,
Wind.
and yet so much was up against us. But on the actual day, pouring down from 10 till 10, 5,000 people still showed up, and we was doing jobs throughout the day. And I went to see Lucy at some point. I think you were sat in the office, and said, "Come onto the stage and let's just have a look out and see what it looks like from the stage." And when we went onto the stage, I think Alexander O'Neill was performing or someone before.
Yeah.
Evelyn Champagne King.
Sybil.
Sybil. And we
It was
looked
just
out.
a sea of people.
Yeah, as far as the eye could see. And I know it was only 5,000, but it was as far as the eye could see. And that's when we knew we'd achieved and created something special, and
Made
we
the
had
right
something
decision.
to build on it. Yeah, it was a really...
it was breathtaking, wasn't it? Because you do have a lot of doubts. You do. And obviously, because we care so much about the business, all we see is the negativity, you know, the stuff on Facebook, or because we're always trying to get better. So you get so caught up in that, that when you look at something like that, it is breathtaking, because you think, wow, we've created this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, I thought actually quite a nice moment, personally, that I found this year was, despite all of the crazy headaches of the day with staffing shortages and alcohol suppliers not arriving and all of the rest of it, there was a moment where I was with your mum on the main stage. I think we must have been listening to Shalimar, or one of the main acts, and there was just thousands of people in front of her, and she was literally like crying.
Yeah.
She was
gosh.
like, my Joe done this. She kept on saying it. She was like, my Joe done this, my Joe done this. She was like, how do you know Joe? Well, she was properly proud, so well done for that. 100%.
No, it was. It was an amazing
This year
moment,
was a proud moment because it's been such a rocky ride, hasn't it?
Yeah, obviously 18 months of not knowing whether we can do it, not do it. And yeah, being up on that stage is it obviously with the complaints on the day and the bar queues and things like that. When you go up and you see 9,000 people singing along to Shalimar, it's amazing, and it does make it all worth it, because there are moments when things are going wrong where you doubt even what you're doing.
You question
of course,
whether it's all worth it.
Yeah.
You do, don't
I
you?
mean, working in events is such a high pressure environment where constantly decisions to be made. Like, I guess from year one to now, your team must have grown extensively to the fact that you're learning to delegate and hand out tasks and realising you cannot do the whole thing yourselves, right?
So we definitely need to expand our team.
That's definitely one of our downfalls, because we care about it so much. I mean, this industry...
And it's so personal to you,
And the problem is, everything we outsource seems to go wrong, and then we end up pulling it back again, don't we?
Yeah, but we've learned that we can't do that. To gain more control, you need to let go of some things.
Yeah.
And it's because we care so much in this industry. It can be a little bit cutthroat at times. You've probably had moments in your career being in this industry where people have been quite cutthroat to you, and where we're not like that, we find it harder to be in the industry because we care so much.
Yeah,
when these things go wrong, it really affects us too. We want it to be right for the customer, for us, for the acts. So when these things go wrong, it doesn't just affect the business, it affects us as well.
Yeah,
because we want it to be right. We don't.
Like, for me, that's a big thing, and I'm sure it's a big thing for a lot of the other artists as well, is not just working with any club promoter who's just there to earn a quick pound note.
Yeah, of course.
You can tell at a festival, when you see you guys backstage, you are living and breathing every moment of that festival. I mean, there's probably a couple of times I walk past Lucy, I'm like, "You're right," and it's more of just like in a zone. Yeah, said, "Yeah, I'm all right. Why? What's the matter?" Nothing's the matter. It's brilliant.
Are you going to shout at me? Are you going to shout at me?
Are you going to shout at me? No, I'm definitely not. But no, I think it's important to definitely acknowledge the fact that you two are two of the most genuine, brilliant people to work for in the industry, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the other DJs and singers. Like, we can see how passionate you are about the brand, which is why I'm sure it's going to go from strength to strength. So moving into next year, you're obviously looking to rectify a lot of the problems. I mean, hopefully stuff like the bar queues and the shortages of staff, that will slowly correct itself naturally as well.
Well, we've extended the site. It's probably another half, isn't it, I would say?
Yeah, probably another half to what you can see.
Which will enable us to have another 4 bars, 4 main bars.
Got you. So there's going to be 4 more bars to
4 more bars with a less capacity. So we're doing it over 2 days next year. We did 2 days this year as a trial. We worked with Raver Tots.
Yeah, I see. So that was totally separate to Soultown, but
but a really good day. It was successful, wasn't it? It just made us realise that we've got the capacity to do 2 days.
Yeah.
And
so that's like a kids event, right? So it's actually like toddlers.
Yeah,
with DJs.
I mean, we had a great day. It was a bit of a reward for us, wasn't it? Like,
kind of relaxing, yeah. But it was just to see if we had the capability to turn the site around, make it clean, make it safe.
Because you wouldn't believe the rubbish at the end of the night.
Oh yeah, I've seen
time
it in the
by
festival.
about 3:30 it was clear, wasn't it? Ready. 3:30 in the morning, clear. And then we got home, I think we had about an hour and a half.
Yeah, we're going about 6, up at 7, back to the site for the Sunday.
Back to the site for the Sunday. But we know we can do it now. So.
Yeah, well, that's it.
And we've got some good plans, haven't we, for the 2 days.
Some really good plans. There's some things that you're never going to be able to have a contingency plan for.
Of course.
But there's a lot of things that we know we could have now. But you never expect these things to happen. We did have contingency plans, but not on the scale that we needed them for the shortages on softs. And I mean, we had 16 pallets of soft drinks and alcohol meant to be turning up on the Friday, and 1 pallet turned up and they just said there's shortages, sorry. No pre-warning, no. So it leaves you a day to...
Yeah, well, I literally see like bar staff with trolley fulls of lemonade from like the local supermarket, trying to just fix the problems that were developing as the day went on. But one thing I would say is I did think the music was fantastic this year, and I think as long as the problems have been taken on board, like you said, you're making the contingencies, you're doing what you can to improve the whole customer experience for next year, I can't see why this festival isn't going to go from strength to strength. Like, I've already seen it with the events at 3 for 8, which, as you said, now you've kind of separated the brand into the garden party and the festival. You've got the festival, which is still going to be family orientated, but focusing more on your soul Motown acts and the old school headliners that are of legendary status, but you're still going to have the garden party tent at the festival next year, or
Yes.
is that going to be on separate days or both days, or
same day?
Yeah, it's going to be on the same day.
Because that was very well received in 2019. That was well received by everybody in the festival, whereas 2021 it was more received by the younger and almost like alienated the older crowd from even wanting to go in there.
Yeah.
So we need to...
Because, that's what I was absolutely wowed by the first time I played at Soultown would have been 2019, is the garden party was almost like a last minute additional add-on.
Yeah.
You know what we'll do? We'll put a few of the DJs on. We'll play Soulful House, an extension of the Soul brand, bit of vocal club classics and commercial dance music, just as a bit of a side thing. And I remember just all of a sudden that tent just packing out for sea of people. Everyone singing along. I remember I played with her this year as well, but Susie Soul, she was brilliant.
Oh, she's amazing.
Alison Limerick done a live PA
That's
in there.
And Baby D.
It was just using like Tony's two PA speakers, and then you're like, wow, this is like an actual force to be reckoned with. And I guess that is where the whole garden party thing was kind of born
which is such a good little brand, because it's been, that was a big moment for me this year. When did we do the full capacity one? 30th of July. This year,
it was
so after all the restrictions got lifted, 30th of July, and how many was it? 2,400.
2003 or 2000.
And I went up onto the balcony and just looked down, and I was like, oh my gosh, all these people dancing who haven't danced in like 18 months.
It was amazing.
It's incredible.
Because I remember you guys actually got your foot in the door at 3 for 8 by doing a few
of garden parties in the garden.
Garden parties actually outside with kind of tables of 6.
They were a saviour for us, weren't they?
When they first,
mentally,
like, when you're first allowed to go out and do anything, that was like the first opportunity for anyone to go out that side of the river and actually go to like a bit of a social event.
It was good.
100%.
They were really good, and again, they wasn't financially.
But they kept all the DJs and musicians with a bit of work, didn't they, every week?
Yeah, everyone had work every week. Everyone was so
sane.
grateful for doing it, and they kept us sane, just putting on parties and keeping the brand alive, really.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And that's what's been great as well, as you said, now you've moved inside to a full capacity club. It is almost quite overwhelming seeing that amount of people like dancing and have a good time with like actually feeling the bass of a sound system. It's something I like
definitely feel
not
the bass
felt in 18 months, and you're like, wow, like it hits you for 6. But so you've got 3 for 8 coming up. Obviously might have already done it at the time of this being released, but 3 for 8 in December. You're also doing the O2 Indigo at the O2, which is again a very prestigious venue. So you guys done that before last year. Who's on the lineup for this year's event?
We've got Melbourne Moore, Loose Ends, Odyssey, and then all of our standard team.
Yeah, so, brilliant. So how
you
it works,
included?
Yeah, so how it works at those kind of O2 events, right, is you'll have a few different singing acts incorporated with your kind of resident DJs as well, playing classics throughout the night, and it just kind of flows. So, it's a nice event, that, isn't it?
It is really nice, because obviously the setup's already done, the venue's
and again,
all
that
singing
put
and
us on the
dancing
map
to go.
because it's a prestigious
prestigious
venue, you know, and we had that year one of our business, didn't we? 2018.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the one where if I put the flyer up on social media, I'll get like mums and uncles and people saying, "Oh, I fancy going to that one." And that's actually like.
And again, that's why that's Soultown Festival, and the garden parties at 3 for 8, because as you said, you get the mums, the aunties, and everything asking about. And that's what we want. We want them to feel like they can come to an event and not say, "Oh, we feel really old."
Yeah,
so they come and they want to. They're surrounded by people of a similar age, like-minded people, like the same music, and that's why we want to disassociate the brands and keep them separate.
I'm glad I've got you two in for a chat, because I know you two don't really do interviews at all, and I know you were quite quite nervous about coming on camera, but then I did have to remind you that at Soultown Festival, like a couple of days before, you're like, "Oh, you don't fancy interviewing the artist backstage, do you, CJ?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do." And you're like, "Yeah, you've only got to interview like Sybil, Shalimar," and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, why have I got to do this?"
But, you've done a great job, mate.
Yeah,
you've done a fantastic job.
Well, you guys have done well with the interview here as well.
Absolutely
so sometimes you just got to wing it, right?
Just dive in.
So, imagine I am just starting out in the music industry or events or hospitality, and I'm thinking about pursuing this as a career. What would be your top tips for me now? Going in and say, "Listen, just remember this."
I'd say number one thing is never screw anyone over in the industry, because your name carries you forward. You don't see many people that's been in the industry for 10, 15 years and still doing it if they've screwed anyone over, because they get a name for themselves. Number 2, always support people, and they will support you. You get back what you give out. So
Networking.
Yeah, networking with other people and just meeting other people in the industry, because you never know when your paths are going to cross again, and you can be working directly with that person. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic advice for sure. And we've touched on it in previous podcasts about how important networking is, and actually how Colin said this as well. The nice people are the ones who survive in this industry. It's the people that think they're the nuts or whatever, and
it's such a cutthroat industry. We had to learn fast. I know you knew more sort of about that industry from being in the clubs, but it came as a complete shock to me.
But festivals,
in our first 6 months of business, I got called a very rude name by a manager. Didn't I?
She did indeed. But being in events is totally different to putting on a festival. I was quite naive to it myself. You even go to 1,000 capacity club, 2,000 capacity. It's a whole different ball game when you go into an open field, and you need to logistically make these things work.
And a lot of people are looking at you to copy our concept, or aren't they? It is, yeah.
Oh, that's very solid advice, and I think with that networking thing, proof's in the pudding. Joe, I met you about 15 years ago and haven't been able to shake you since. So thanks for booking me again.
God, is that how long I've got? 15 years?
No, mate. Well, it's the same thing you said about Colin as well. It's about being nice people in the industry. You'll never meet anyone that will meet Colin Francis or yourself and has a bad word to say about you. So
Colin's
that's
an
why
absolute legend.
He is. He's an absolute gentleman, and that's why these people in this industry will continue to flourish, because you get out what you give. So.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, that's extremely solid advice. So, guys, you have already set out plans for a bigger and better 2-day festival in your hometown in Beckenham. Is it Beckenham?
Yeah,
Beckenham.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners who don't know where Soultown is, you can catch it in Beckenham. And what are the dates of that?
3rd and 4th of September.
Perfect. So, great way to end the summer. Talk to me about what other summer plans you've got in the pipeline, because you just done an event at Ocean Beach, right, in Ibiza?
Yeah.
Have you got plans to go back to Ibiza
That was
or
a highlight,
abroad?
wasn't it, that? It's brilliant.
Yeah, that was really good. Obviously, you look at being a promoter, events organiser, you look at places like O Beach in Ibiza, and you aspire to one day put an event on there. And then when we finally got the call from Tony Truman, who said we've got a date, it was amazing, and we put everything into it.
It was brilliant,
It was really, really good, and hopefully we're in talks with those guys about next year about doing a date in the summer. So.
Got ya. So you've laid some foundations with your gigs abroad this summer just gone with Ibiza, and you've got a few more plans to maybe go back out there next summer.
Yeah,
and who
we
knows?
did Monaco in May, didn't we? Just gone as well.
Oh, amazing. So you guys are going to be at the Monaco Grand Prix again.
We will.
Yeah.
Unique hospitality.
On a yacht, trackside, right?
That's it.
Yeah, trackside super yacht. Yeah,
fantastic.
So it's another pinch yourself moment when we're out there.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Monaco. Yes, it's amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
Fantastic. So sporting events, international gigs, and hopefully festivals. I mean, I'm sure by the next time we talk, there's going to be a whole list of countries that you guys are going to be in pursuit of, or taken over, hopefully. I mean, coming out of, like you said, coming out of this weird time of lockdown and travel restrictions and everything else, I think the world will be your oyster on the other side of this.
Hope so.
And bringing this brand to a whole new audience as well. Cause,
hopefully.
One thing I've found, especially in London, is people just love the music that you guys put on. And it's so refreshing to go to an event where you're seeing all of these legends perform. Like, where else can you do that? It's amazing.
Cool.
It's nice. It really is a niche, and we're really enjoying the process. So
we've got some big announcements for the lineup next year, haven't we?
Coming
soon.
We've done a big jump with the artists.
Yeah,
well, I was going to say, I see on your social media, because a lot of the planning by you guys does involve a lot of finding out what your clients and customers actually like. I know
we're so surprised by the
you do a lot of market research
today.
and you put out a lot of questionnaires and try and get a gauge for basically how you can improve the festival on every level and aspect, really.
Definitely, yeah.
So when can we expect to find out who is going to be headlining Soultown 2022?
So probably by the time that this podcast comes out, there's going to be announcements about our headline acts.
We always announce the headline and tickets on sale at the O2.
Okay,
so
brilliant.
on Friday the 10th.
So the O2 will announce who's going to be
on the screens, and tickets go on sale for that audience, and then on Saturday's general release.
Yeah, 24 hours later, so they get the people that are at the event at
It's
Indigo.
a big jump.
Yeah.
It's a big
No, I
jump.
love that. That's fantastic. Well, it's a
Wasn't part of
2-day
the plan.
festival. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
We
Can't
needed
wait.
a new risk, didn't we?
Yeah, just another one to put in there. So
Fantastic. No, that's absolutely brilliant. How can the guys listening find out about your festival? So you're on social media. It's at Soultown Festival on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Our website.
And your website, what's your website?
Soultownfestival.com.
Soultownfestival.com. Perfect. So guys, make sure you go check them out.
Yeah.
Because it's an amazing festival in South London, full of good vibes, good music, good people, and it does cater to all age groups. So make sure you get down there in September and hopefully see you at the O2 or 3 for 8 or check out one of the other events that these guys are doing. Moving into the festival next year, what can your guests and people going expect from the festival? It's going to be slightly different to previous years.
So first things first, we've made the festival over 25s, which was a brave move, wasn't it, for us?
yeah,
We're now considering to lower it slightly to over 21s. Just because our objective when we first started was to create a festival for the older generation to go and enjoy and not feel out of place. And in 2021, the festival's just gone. That didn't really happen, and we were quite aware of that the online streams had created a new younger audience that followed the brand. So we knew that we had to act fast and correct that, so that's what we've done.
but we've received a lot of messages online from people, and the whole reason we started the festival as well was 3 generations of people can come.
Yeah,
so you had the daughter,
it's a family,
the mum, the
it's
nan.
a family affair, right?
Yeah,
Of course.
and so we was a little bit disappointed when some of these sort of 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds were saying, "Oh no, please, we want to come." Like last year, I came with my mum and my nan. It was fantastic, and then that got us a bit disheartened. So we are reconsidering the age, whether to make it 21s, 23s. We do realise that we can't make it a festival where everyone comes now, because we did
It's got
start it
such
for
a
the
young
old.
following.
Yeah, we did start it for the older generation, and we want them to feel comfortable and to enjoy their day first and foremost. So
Of
that's
course,
our,
yeah.
that's our.
It's a bit of a catch-22 for you guys, because through the incredible work that you've done through lockdown in raising awareness of the brand and doing these live streams, you've taken on a whole new audience. Where you're doing venues like Studio 348, which is primarily a house club,
Yeah.
you are getting the younger generation want to come and enjoy the music, which is fantastic, because all of this generation still appreciate all of that great music, and it's great actually to educate a lot of them on like your 70s, 80s and disco that
it's great.
they might have not necessarily listened to before,
Yeah.
and people are going and really getting into the vibe of it. And then you go and do a festival, and as you said, sometimes trying to separate the two audiences can be very difficult. So
Yeah.
you've actually now split the brand into 2 sides, right? So
Yeah.
you've got Soultown the festival and you've got Soultown the garden party.
Yeah.
So moving forward, what's going to be kind of the aim? So you're still going to do clubs like 348 and go down that route and still put on events for the younger generation as well?
Yeah, with the reason we disassociate the brands is because there's soul. That word soul is such a wide word where you can go with it. So we've the 2 brands going alongside each other, it just wasn't working, because younger people were turning up to the older events expecting soulful house music, and older people were turning up to the younger events expecting soul and Motown. So we disassociated the brands. Soultown Festival is now purely going to be over 21s, 25s, whichever we decide, and that's going to be purely soul and Motown club classics.
And that would be the festival and the O2. And then that's it for those events.
And then the garden party is where we're going to be doing all these pop-ups for the younger generation to come, over 18s, where it's all things, bit of soul, bit of Motown mixed in with soulful house, disco, and a bit more for that younger generation, because they do come and support us. I mean,
that's definitely a niche, that 18 to 25 market. You know, they go wild for Ain't No Mountain High Enough in a club.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
so
it is good. It is good.
We've got a niche there. It's just sort of winning at both angles, really.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I totally appreciate how difficult it must be to keep the 2 audiences separate and happy at the same time. 'Cause
Yeah.
as you said, Soultown Festival is a festival for the whole family to be enjoyed, but then it's like you said, you've got a younger generation who love the soulful house, and it's more of a dance tent really at the festival.
Yeah.
And then you've got the main stage, which is obviously on a much larger scale, but families kind of sat down relaxing, having a dance, but enjoying the rest of the day.
Yeah, of course.
Actually sitting down and listening to the music rather than necessarily partying as hard as, well, I like to consider myself the younger generation. So, I'm probably somewhere in the middle, but yeah.
Getting closer to the main stage now, mate.
Yeah, no, that's it. Getting closer to the main stage someday, Joe, someday. So, Joe, you touched on briefly that you've actually got a pub as well. So
Yeah.
is it just the one pub you've got, or?
I've got 2 pubs.
Okay.
Yeah, the Summerfield down in Lee and the Bull's Head in Pratt's Bottom.
Okay, in South London. Oh, wicked.
Yeah.
So I know you originally from actually being a club promoter. So where did this whole journey of? Don't worry, we'll get back to you in a second, Lucy.
No, I'm fine. I'm happy for Joe to talk.
I'm sure you've heard Joe tell this story many times. So
It's the spill.
Yeah,
Come on, Joe.
The Joe show, right? So back to CJ's with Joe. So we could probably do a whole episode on the Joe, but anyway, where did it all start for you in terms of actually saying, right, I want to go out there and put on events of music and have a good time?
It was always a side thing. I was like Joe, 10 jobs. I've tried every job and couldn't find my feet in anything. And I always done promotions on the side, and it was handing out flyers and selling tickets for sub-promoting for other people and coming up with my own little brand names. And then I was putting on parties on the side of actually being an estate agent.
Okay.
So
is that where you got your gift for the gab?
No,
selling tickets
that was
off?
actually
Didn't sell no houses.
Cheap salesman.
no, market trading. I worked on a market stall from when I was sort of 13, 14, and that's what taught me sort of entrepreneurial skills and how to make money out of buying and selling stuff. And
You love a deal, don't you?
I do love a deal, yeah. I do love a deal.
And one on race polos.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And just sub-promoting, and then it obviously led into me doing my own nights. Done some nights at Ministry, Pasha, and then the estate agents saw me with a flyer on my screen and said, look, you can't be doing the both. You've got to decide what you want to do. So I decided to give it a year of doing events to see if I could make it into a career. And if I couldn't, I was still young enough to go and get what they call a real job.
Yeah.
And then, it started to flourish, and doing my own events was making me enough money to live on, and I really enjoyed it. And then opportunities started opening up to own my own venues, and started with a club. Then the more and more I grew up, it was like bars, and then went into pubs, and then sort of the festival's the most recent thing that we started to do.
So it's all transferable skills, right? It's all kind of led you to this moment of
definitely
running a festival. So you guys have got an amazing team behind you, right? And I know you just want to extend a quick thank you to all of them.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people think that this is a big corporation with big offices and things like that. It's not. It's a small handful of people that make this work, and a lot of subcontractors. So we want to say a massive thank you. So first and foremost to all our followers and supporters that have been to the festival over the last sort of 3-4 years.
Especially over the lockdown.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone that supported us through the lockdown.
The business flourished in lockdown, which is incredible.
Yeah, amazing. All the artists, all the staff that work with us. Yourself, obviously, you do a lot for Soultown as well, and our friends and family that muck in on the day and help us get it over the line, basically. So we're hugely grateful to everyone.
Yeah, I mean that is one of the things I've always taken away from Soultown is that the staff behind it are actually all just like friends and family, and it's such a close knit of people.
It is. Even our signage guy does our signage, but then is on a cherry picker putting up banners, and doing all sorts of various jobs. I'm sure he'll tell you.
Brilliant. I love it. Nice one.
Lovely.
Thanks for coming down, guys.
No,
Much
thanks,
appreciated.
CJ. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Perfect.